are up, mainly due to our projection of egg use penalty. Also, mobile home taxes are up slightly, and hotel and motel taxes are up slightly, for a total increase in other taxes of almost a little over $27,000. Public charge for services is up. Basically, that's up due to the franchise fee. Last year we had a 1% fee. I'm looking at 5% fee in 2008. The new fee I was talking about in terms of IT department services, charging for their services of mapping for developments in different areas that part of that, and also the administrative fee that we charge developments to process their development through the process of development. Offset here is also a reduction in co-location revenue. Other revenue is mainly up due to interest. Interest income's up about $10,000. And new programs, as we mentioned before, again, the fire medic and the police officer and the database administrator, for a total increase. Oh no, well that 48,000 is actually the increase in permit fees, not the police officer or the fire medic, but increase in permits. Also license fee for electrical, and that's the increase there for 48 that I talked about earlier. So an increase of 831,000 in revenue. Now switching to the other side of the equation, the expenditure side of the equation. And this is like the center section, the first slide I had showing all the operating expenditures and the change. And at this point I'm going to go through the major reasons for the change in each of the areas. First of all, public safety. Public safety is up a little over 200,000. Mainly this increase is due to personnel expenditures. We have a contract with both the fire and the police and dispatch for 3.5% raise for next year. That's incorporated into the 2008 budget. Also, health insurance went up 15%, and that's incorporated in there. So the 210 is mainly those two items. Otherwise, throughout all these budgets, we did line item reductions. We actually went through and looked at the trends of previous years and looked at what departments had budgeted, and if historically they had not spent similar amounts of what they budgeted, we actually cut line items to help reduce this budget overall. Therefore, you won't see that many increases in like contractual services or some of the other things. Most of the increase in this budget is due to personnel. In Public Works, we have a slight increase. Public Works includes our engineering, street departments, street lighting, and clean water. Even with the personnel increases of 3.5% in wages and 15% in health insurance, we were able to maintain this department. We did line reductions in this department, but also we eliminated the allocation of the GIS mapping staff from the IT department. IT will show an increase because they took that part of the expense back and it's not charging out the municipal government departments for that. General government, we have the village board, municipal court, administration, HR, IT, finance, and assessing. This department went up $241,000. A couple of reasons for this. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, is that allocation of the GIS mapping staff to other departments and funds. We re-looked at that whole allocation, what the staff was doing in terms of the mapping GIS, and part of that got brought back into IT. Utilities actually weren't using the mapping as much as we thought, so some of that allocation came back also to IT. So that counts for like $86,000 of this increase. Also, in the HR department, we're looking at a $25,000 increase just for next year in terms of recruitment of engineers to fill vacant engineer positions. We've been trying to fill positions for an engineer for a couple of years and are having difficulty on our own in doing that, so looking at a headhunter. And we put $25,000 in the budget to help us to find an engineer. And also another addition here is the monthly village newsletter. Community development. Here it's actually going down, but the reason for that is that they are no longer allocated a third of the GIS employee from IT, and then we had some line item reductions for them also. Parks went down due to line item reductions, and then new programs. That's the police officer, the fire medic, database administrator, and other personnel changes for an increase of $173,000. Program reductions is a reduction in consultants and contractual services for the IT department. So overall, the budget went up $600,000. Main reason, personnel increases and an addition of personnel for public safety. Now switching gears from operating, which is the day-to-day operations of the village, to the capital fund, buying major purchases that will last us more than 1 year. This summarizes our capital fund. Here you can see property tax actually decreased, $137,000. That's because we are allocating more of our property tax to operating instead of capital. This comparison here is from 2007 estimated versus 2008 proposed. The estimated is more of a true picture of where we are this year compared to what the budget was for 2007 for capital. But the property tax stayed the same as what the budget was in terms of that category. Impact fees, this is actually the accumulation of impact fees. Currently I'm just budgeting the same as last year for that. That's just the money we are anticipating collecting, not using at this point. Others includes grants, interest earned on our fund balance, impact fees actually used, sales of our equipment, that's used equipment. The main increase in this area is due to the use of impact fees. We're actually using $73,000, a little over $73,000 of impact fees to help us redesign our dispatch center and to redevelop Pleasant Parade Park. So that's the revenue sources. The revenue sources went down 14%, or a little over $100,000, mainly due to shifting more toward the operating in terms of this current property tax year. Capital outlay-wise, we've increased our property outlay, or capital outlay. The major capital outlay for this year compared to last year is 80th Street construction for $1.7 million, bridge reconstruction for a little $265,000, and also electric and lights at the North Ball Field at Prairie Springs Park for $208,000. We're also looking at doing road maintenance of $200,000, and then also a plow truck with side wing replacement of $140,000, and our annual replacement of police vehicles. Every year we replace our marked vehicles, so we're replacing 5 marked vehicles, and then every third year we replace our unmarked, and we're replacing 1 unmarked this year, for a total of 150 prior to us selling our used vehicles. So that's the major capital purchases that we are looking at. There's other minor ones that add up to our total of a little over $3 million of capital. We're looking at borrowing a little over $2 million. This is the first time we borrowed in over 5 years. We're looking at borrowing for just our major capital purchases, which is our 80th Street construction, the bridge reconstruction, and also the lights, electric at the North Ball Fields. The next line below is transfer, and you can see the transfer in 2007, and there's actually a resolution on tonight's board agenda to make this transfer. In 2006, we were able to accumulate, due to health insurance savings and vacant positions, in our operating section, the section I talked about previous to this, we were able to accumulate a little over $500,000. So at this, we're asking to transfer that money from our operating into our capital to help fund the purchases for 2008. So you can see we're actually gaining money in 2007 because of this transfer. We're going to use that money in 2008 to purchase some of the minor equipment in 2008. You can see we actually are using some money, $250,000 above what the revenue will be for 2008. So that's our capital fund. Now I'm switching to the third component of operating, which is our debt service. Debt service, again I'm comparing the budget here to the proposed. Tax levy wise, there's not much of a change at all. Our debt in the past have been structured to be pretty level over the years, so we don't have spikes to consider in the future. So we're actually going down slightly in terms of tax